Today, we're discussing a trendy tree with many qualities that grows so quickly it's become a star. It's popular with permaculturists for biomass, in syntropic agriculture, in ecology for carbon monoxide, to capture, and in agriculture for wood production. Picture a tree that doubles in size yearly, growing to 15 meters in just 5 or 6 years. With a 30 centimeter trunk, it captures carbon monoxide 10 times faster than any other tree. This tree is the Paulownia. Some see something magical in this, while others believe such vigor must hide flaws. Some even fear its invasive nature. So, is the Paulownia truly magical or just somewhat interesting? What are all the possible uses for it, or are we actually dealing with a new invader that needs to be eliminated? That's everything we're going to look at in this video. Let's start this new plant story. It's been a while since we continued this series. Let's go. Before we look at these different characteristics, let's first see who we're talking about. If you have a Paulownia at home, I'm willing to bet it's a Paulownia tomentosa, since it's by far the most common species in France. However, some species are less known to gardeners, but more familiar to farmers. We'll see why soon. For example, there are Paulownia elongata, fortunei, kawakami, fargesi, catalpifolia, and possibly others I'm forgetting. You may know other names, but be cautious. They could be hybrids, which we'll discuss shortly. Let's briefly describe the Paulownia. I'm going to describe the Paulownia tomentosa, the most common one, but know that this description is pretty much the same for all the Paulownia species I just mentioned. So let's say it's a tree that has a somewhat exotic appearance, mainly because of its large leaves. It has heart-shaped leaves up to 60 centimeters, sometimes 90 centimeters across, making them huge. As I mentioned, it grows rapidly and can double in size yearly. That's true. It can grow up to 15 meters in under 6 years. Its adult size will be 20 meters, 25 meters in very, very good conditions, with a crown diameter that can reach up to 15 meters. Its flowering is its most charming feature. It produces clusters of mauve-violet flowers that smell like violets and appear in the spring before the leaves come out. So we will have large trees that are completely covered with flowers and that smell very, very good. And you can usually smell them from far away. In fall, it produces capsule-shaped fruit clusters with seeds. When they fly away, they can travel far and reseed nearly anywhere. We'll cover this in the video. As I said, this description fits all Paulownia species with minor differences. In terms of size, flower color, and leaf size, it varies a little bit. However, where they differ significantly is in terms of hardiness. So in terms of resistance to cold, resistance to stress, adaptation to soil and fertility, Paulownia tomentosa is the hardiest, tolerating temperatures as low as -20, sometimes even -25. It tolerates all types of soil, it resists stress well, that's why it's grown almost everywhere, and it's especially much more fertile. While most species of Paulownias have a lot of difficulty germinating here in France, the Paulownia tomentosa germinates very easily almost anywhere, which gives it its reputation as an invasive plant. To wrap up, let's quickly clear up a common mistake and examine the differences between Paulownias and Catalpas. Some of you may think you have a Paulownia in your garden when it's actually a Catalpa, or the other way around. By the way, mention it in the comments, so don't worry, it's a very common mistake. These two trees look a lot alike, and that being said, they still have a few differences that will actually help you tell them apart. Depending on the season, you'll see something different. Spring, summer, fall, if the tree has leaves, touch one. Paulownia tomentosa. Tomentosa means fuzzy. Its leaves are soft and slightly hairy. Unlike the Catalpa's smooth leaves, touch them to notice the difference. Another difference is its fruits. This autumn, observe their shape. As I mentioned, the Paulownia has capsule-shaped fruits, while the Catalpa produces long pods that hang down in autumn. And another difference, which personally makes me find the Paulownia a bit prettier and more charming, is its flowering. The Catalpa will bloom at the beginning of summer, in June or July. When the tree is covered in leaves, it produces clusters of pink, light or white flowers. The Paulownia blooms at the start of spring before its leaves emerge. So we will see trees that are completely covered with flowers and not hidden at all by the leaves. So the Paulownia, in terms of blooming, is very beautiful. Well, that's just my personal taste. All right, that's it for the Catalpa topic. You shouldn't make that mistake again. Now we'll examine the various uses for the Paulownia. There are many. You should know that originally the Paulownia was an ornamental tree. The first Paulownia to arrive in Europe actually came to Paris from Japan in 1834, and it died in 1956 at the age of 122. For those worried about introducing Paulownia to France, it's actually been here for a long time. Originally, as I mentioned, it was introduced as an ornamental plant, And about 20 years ago, we started to find quite a few uses for it. As a result, it's now used in many situations. We'll first look at the specific uses. Amateur gardeners, one of its first uses. It will quickly become a shade tree, creating a shaded area in 2 to 3 years. A bit like the magic bean from, what's his name again? Jack? I don't know. If you plant a Paulownia, you'll have a nice shaded area in just 2 to 4 years. Just for that, it's cool. Another benefit of the flowering is its high melliferous quality, which supports biodiversity and honey production. Should I cut this one? We shouldn't call a plant melliferous, that's incorrect. Plants only produce nectar. It's the bees that make honey, not the plants. So if we look in the dictionary, literally melliferous means that which gives honey, but in the sense that it provides bees with the material to make honey. So obviously it's not the tree that makes honey, but it's not incorrect to say that a plant or a flower is melliferous. Sorry. So to come back to this use of Paulownia, it can be used to produce honey. There is actually Paulownia honey, which is very good, and you can simply use it to promote biodiversity. It's interesting. Another advantage is it produces a lot of biomass, and its foliage helps enrich the soil and add nitrogen. However, be careful with a common misconception. Some websites claim that Paulownia is a nitrogen fixer. This belief stems from a Japanese article that was likely mistranslated. Paulownia enriches soil with nitrogen, but isn't a nitrogen fixer like legumes. Paulownia produces abundant biomass and leaves, regularly adding litter to the soil, and that will boost the activity of bacteria and fungi in the soil. So it's a tree that is fertilizing. It will speed up nitrogen processes in the soil, making it more fertile. But it is not a nitrogen fixer. It does not capture gaseous nitrogen from the air like legumes do. That being said, once again, it's still a very interesting plant for producing biomass and nourishing the soil. Another use exists, but individuals rarely use it. It produces an interesting lightweight wood with unique qualities, which makes it interesting for crafts, making small wooden objects or things like that. We'll get to that quickly, to its agricultural use, since it's really the wood that's interesting. Today, we see more and more farmers planting large quantities for wood production. You should know that Paulownia has two uses for wood. On one hand, it's used as timber. So, with trees harvested after 15-20 years, trunks can reach 50-60 centimeters in diameter. It rapidly grows wood with unique qualities, making it suitable for specific uses. It yields very light wood, weighing 250 kilograms per cubic meter. It's lighter than poplar, but heavier than balsa. We'll revisit this soon. This wood is widely used like poplar or balsa. You can make lightweight wooden boxes for furniture, boat covers, or tiny house siding since it's so light. It's common in music, with many traditional Japanese instruments made from it. Guitar bodies. We've seen some guitars, especially Stratocasters and Telecasters, that are made from Paulownia wood. That's probably the most well-known use in sports. It's with Paulownia that we make surfboards, skateboards, skis, and canoes. It's often used because it's lightweight and doesn't warp when dry. Now, another use for Paulownia wood is as biomass or energy wood. It's used to make pellets, wood chips, and paper pulp. For this use, Paulownias are harvested much faster than for timber. You can harvest Paulownias, or at least cut down Paulownias. Basically, it regrows from the same stump every 5-6 years, and this can be repeated 4 or 5 times. In 20 to 25 years, you'll get 4 or 5 harvests. I'll skip the agricultural details. One last use is as a fodder tree. It's a tree whose foliage, at least, is very palatable for animals. And so it can be used to feed ruminants, even though this use is not yet very widespread in France. So far, that was the beautiful, almost magical part. Paulownia, and now we're going to come back to reality a bit and go over some common misconceptions about Paulownia. If you've already heard about it, I'm sure you've already heard certain things about Paulownia, like the fact that it produces rot-proof wood. Well, no wood is truly rot-proof, that doesn't exist. Otherwise, since the Carboniferous period, we'd be buried under biomass. So all wood decomposes. Paulownia might have wood that takes longer to decompose. Or maybe not even that, actually. It's considered rot-resistant mainly because its low moisture content makes it hard for fungi to develop, or that it's low in starch and sugar, making it less attractive to wood-eating insects, xylophages. And on top of that, it's wood that will dry very quickly and therefore won't warp with use. So it's interesting, and some industries will call it rot-proof, but that's more of a marketing thing. maybe to boost its production, but in reality it's not that rot proof. It will be very interesting and take a very long time to rot when used really in dry conditions. If using it outdoors, keep it sheltered from rain. With proper treatment and varnish, it can last 10-15 years. If untreated, it will start to rot after 5 to 8 years. And now if you use it outdoors in the rain or in a place where it gets wet, it will rot after a few years. So it's not rot proof at all. Other sites will say that Paulownia is a very resistant wood. So as I was saying about the density, we're at 250 kilo per cubic meter, so between balsa and poplar. For the other characteristics, torsion resistance, tension, compression, I'll list the numbers here for you. This is from a Fibrois Bretagne document linked in the video description, which provides more information about Paulownia. So there you go, saying that Paulownia is strong, sturdy and all that. No, it has certain characteristics, but you can't really say it's that strong. We're going to use it, as I was saying, for making boat coverings and tiny house siding. We'll make canoes, surfboards and skateboards. It's light and great, but not for building house structures. Plywood is fine, just not the framework. With Paulownia, it's not strong at all. And what about this common belief that Paulownia is a tree that will store a huge amount of carbon, 10 times more than all the other trees? Well, that's complete bullshit, isn't it? Paulownia can store 10 times more carbon dioxide than the least efficient trees. However, it's not a valid comparison. Carbon monoxide, storage is tied to biomass production. I'm showing you a table here, which I believe also comes from Fibrois Bretagne, where you'll see the biomass production for different trees. And so we can already see right away, yes, the Paulownia is the most productive, that's true. But to say that it's 10 times more productive than other trees, no, it depends on what you're comparing it to. Compared to low producers, it's 10 times more, but not when compared to the highest producers. Well, it's twice as productive, that's already interesting. It's twice as productive as Douglas fir or Sitka spruce. It's 4 times more productive than maritime pine, the most productive trees we know, so it's very productive. That being said, when a site tells you it's 10 times more productive than other trees, well, they could have just said it was the most productive, but not 10 times more than all the others either. Don't fool yourself. Now let's discuss its invasive side, which scares many people. This issue mainly concerns Paulownia tomentosa, as I said, since it can reseed itself everywhere. There are certain regions in the United States and in Southern Europe where Paulownia tomentosa has been seen invading some areas. But as I said, it doesn't establish itself the same way everywhere. It can easily establish in disturbed areas like roadsides, wastelands, embankments and urban sites. And any spot with consistently bare soil where seeds can easily germinate. Balanced ecosystems are rarely, if ever, invaded by Paulownia, which struggles to establish and germinate in well-developed vegetated areas. It's really the disturbed areas where it will settle, so it's mainly in artificial or degraded areas that we might see a risk of this plant being considered invasive. But in natural environments, no. So that's already an interesting first point that can be a bit reassuring. And now, since agricultural areas are by definition disturbed zones, where we often have bare soil, real risk. To reduce this risk, researchers have developed hybrids between species that are infertile or even sterile. This is the case, for example, of the Paulownia chantong, which is a hybrid between the Paulownia tomentosa and the Paulownia fortunei. The idea was to mix these Paulownia to better use their vigor, stress resistance and similar traits. And especially the fact that since it's a hybrid, in general, it's less fertile afterwards. So here it's a hybrid between 2 species. And we're going to have hybrids between 3 species that are even less fertile. And some hybrids that are created in the laboratory by cloning. I don't even know how they do it, by the way, but those are said to be completely sterile. So I'll give you a few names, by the way, because I wrote some down. We're going to have Turbo Pro, The Pro, Proxy 2, Cotivisa 2 in vitro, 112 J2, N2 Nordmax, 21 Phoenix 1. There you go, they have great names. That being said, I can't really go into detail about that. So, since it's pretty hard to find information on the real name of the plant created in the lab and the commercial name given by the company that sells it, it's quite difficult to give information about that. Just a few things I've seen regarding all of this. The thing is, the information we have about the sterility or low fertility of these plants, well, we don't have much perspective on it yet. So when we say that a plant is completely sterile, apparently we'll know for sure in a few years, but for now we're not too sure. There's some information I saw, I don't remember where, by the way, I'm trying to find it again. If I do, I'll put it in the subtitles for you. It's about the low fertility aspect. Germination depends on temperature. For example, Paulownia tomentosa germinates after 2 weeks at 15 degrees Celsius, while hybrids require 2 weeks at 25 degrees Celsius. That's why they struggle to germinate, since those temperatures are rare in spring. That's it for now. But who can say if one day we won't have a slightly warmer climate and therefore seeds that will germinate a bit better? When that day comes, we'll have bigger problems than the Paulownia. I think these are sites that can sell Paulownia if you're a farmer or something, but in any case, these are sites where you can get a lot of information about Paulownia. Be cautious. People often highlight some information, but not all, so be careful with what you read. Well, and maybe even a few more links. Go check out the description below the video. If you have questions or stories, leave them in the comments. I'm always eager to learn more. If you enjoyed this, leave a thumbs up, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to support me, you can do so through Typee. There should be a link somewhere in the description. Thanks to everyone who has helped or will help. Without you, I couldn't do this. All right, I'll see you very soon for more videos. Bye.